Hi, welcome to my video on the review of reciprocal trig ratios. And as in all my reviews, you can treat it as a quiz where you can give yourself a mark assigned to each question, total up the page at the bottom. When you get them all the pages done, total up your scores, put it over 41, change it to a decimal, and then do a percent and see what score you have. So let's start the review. And the review questions are done in order as in the videos. So if you make any errors, you want to go back and look at the video to review, do so. State the reciprocal ratio of each sign. I need a C, so it's a cosecant. And cosecant is CSC. Cos begins with C, so I need an S, so that's secant. And secant is SEC as abbreviation. Tan, reciprocal is cotangent, which is denoted by COT, cot. Give yourself a mark each. Write each in terms of the primary ratio. So cot is 1 over tan, reciprocal of tan. Secant, it begins with C, so I need an S, so it's 1 over sine, reciprocal of sine. And did I say secant? Cosecant is the reciprocal. Begins with C, I need an S. Secant begins with an S, so I need a C, so it's 1 over cos. So C, S, S, C is my way of memorizing. And the reciprocals are 1 over the primaries. Give yourself a mark if you have these right. Find the exact value of each. Cos A is root 2 over 2. Secant of A, same angle, so I can just do the inverse or reciprocal. So that's 2 over root 2. And I have to conjugate the denominator because I'm not allowed to leave a radical in the denominator. Shouldn't. Root 2 times root 2 is 2. It's any square root multiplied by itself gives you that number. Or root 2 times root 2 is a 4, and square root of 4 is 2. So 2 times root 2 is 2 root 2. The 2's cancel, and I just get a root 2. Give yourself a mark. Tan of f is 2 over 7. The cot of f is the reciprocal, 7 over 2. Notice the same angle, so I can just flip it upside down. Inverse, reciprocal. Sine of h is 5 over 13. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, same angle, so I just go reciprocal, 13 over 5. Give yourself a mark. The secant is 5 over 4. The cos, reciprocal of secant, reciprocal is 4 over 5. Give yourself a mark. Cosecant is root 6 over 2. Sine of E, notice the two angles are the same. So reciprocal is 2 over root 6. And again, multiply by root 6 over root 6. Not allowed to leave a radical in the denominator. Root 6 times root 6 is 6. 2 times root 6 is 2 root 6. And 2 cancels into 6 3 times, so I get a root 6 over 3. Give yourself a mark. Total up the score, and hopefully you have 11. Let's continue. Number 4 question. Find each as a fraction, simplified. So we have a triangle, ABC. C is the right angle. That's the hypotenuse, and that's the legs 6 and 8. And we have Sakatova and sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cos is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan is opposite over adjacent. And the reciprocal is sine is S, so I need a C, so it's H over O. Cos, I have a C, so I need an S, so it's H over A. And tan is cot, C-O-T, so it's A over O. And since I have all the numbers, secant is hypotenuse over adjacent. So the hypotenuse over the adjacent. For angle A, hypotenuse is 10. The adjacent side for angle A is 6. And that reduces to 5 over 3. Give yourself a mark. Cot is adjacent over opposite. In relation to angle B, adjacent is 8 over opposite of is 6, so that reduces 2 and 8 goes 4, 2 and the 6 goes 3, 4 over 3, give yourself a mark. The cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite, and in relation to angle A, the hypotenuse is 10. Hypotenuse is always 10, but the opposite side for angle A is 8, so 10 over 8. 2 is a common factor. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 8 divided by 2 is 4. You got 5 over 4. Give yourself a mark. There's another way you can handle this. You can also say, if you have the secant of A, the secant of A, angle A, is also 1 over the cos of angle A. And that's 1 over the cos of angle A is adjacent over hypotenuse. So angle A, adjacent, which is 6 over 10, adjacent over hypotenuse. So that is 1 times 10 over 6, which is 10 over 6, and gives you 5 over 3. But notice you can do either way, but I find if you do secant, memorizing this, to do hypotenuse over adjacent is much quicker than going through this little bit of math. But that's your choice. Number 5, triangle PQR has angle Q 90, and the sine of R is 12 over 13. So what we have is a triangle, and we have Q, which I need to know where the right angle is. So I can put P there and R there. And sine is opposite over hypotenuse of R. So opposite of R is here. Hypotenuse is 13 across from the right angle. And we work out C squared equals A squared plus B squared. The hypotenuse is 13. A is 12. And we can let B be X. And we get 13 squared, 169, 12 squared, 144. And so 169 minus 144 is X squared. So X squared is 25. So I do the square root plus minus, square root of each side. Square root of X squared is X, and that's plus minus 5. And I have to take the positive number because I'm dealing with a triangle. So we want to do the cot of P and the cot of P, and cot is adjacent over opposite. So in terms of P, adjacent is 12 and opposite is 5. So if you have this worked out as far as here, you get a mark. If you work out here, you get a mark. But you got to go all through this with the Pythagorean just to get that other side. Then you fill in 2 marks altogether. Number 6, triangle DEF. DE is perpendicular to EF, and the cosecant of D is 17 over 8. Find the cos of D. Again, we draw a triangle. I always like to draw a triangle. And DE is perpendicular to EF, so E is in both. So E is the right angle. So DE is perpendicular to EF. And the cosecant of D, cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. In relation to D, hypotenuse is always the 17. The opposite is the 8. Opposite is across from 8. So we have to do C squared is A squared plus B squared again. So 17, A is 8. We can let B be the X. So 17 squared is, and do you memorize what 17 squared is? Well, I don't. So I'm going to take 17 and squared, and I get 289. And 8 squared is 64. I know that. I got to memorize. So 289 subtract 64 equals X squared, and that gives me a 225. And we do the square root of each side, plus minus square root of X squared, which is X, and that's plus minus 15. So this other side is 15. And we have to find the cos of D. Cos is adjacent over hypotenuse. In relation to angle D, adjacent is 15. Hypotenuse is 17. So again, if you got this one, you got plus or minus 15. And mark, if you got this and mark, 2 all together. Total up your page is at a 7. Let's continue. How are you doing? Hopefully everything is going okay and you understand, because when you learn the basics for the trig, that will come into play when we go further in trig. So it's imperative that you learn about the radicals, unit on radicals, and the right triangular trig, sine, cos, and tan. And now we're doing the reciprocal ratios. Number 7, triangle WYV has angle V of 90, and the sine of y is 3/5. And again, we have a triangle, a right triangle. We got V to be 90. That means W and Y is the other angles. And Sakatoa, again, if you write this down in one spot, if you're doing trig and you wrote this down on a sheet of paper, and you wouldn't have to keep writing it down like I'm doing. I'm writing it down just to make sure, really, that I don't make a mistake, because it's so easy to make a mistake. Cosecant, hypotenuse over opposite, and secant is hypotenuse over adjacent, and cot is adjacent over opposite. So, again, put it down on a sheet of paper when you're doing trig, and you have it. Now we have sine is opposite over hypotenuse for angle y. Opposite is 3, hypotenuse is 5. And we do the Pythagorean, c squared is a squared plus b squared. Now you can memorize that if the hypotenuse is 5, then the other two legs should be 3 squared, 4 squared, 5. You can memorize those, 3, 4, 5. Because there's certain ones you memorize, 3, 4, 5. There's a, you can double them and get a 6, 8, and 10. You can get a 5, 12, and 13. These are common numbers. But if you don't memorize them, you'll recognize them after a while. And 25, 9, x squared. So 25 minus 9 is x squared. X squared is 16 plus minus the root plus minus s plus minus 4. Square root of x squared is x. So that's why that side is a 4. But if you learned them, 3, 4, 5. 6, 8, 10, 5, 12, 13, some common ones, then you don't have, you just automatically put them in. So let's work out the cos. The cos is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. For angle y, adjacent is 4/5, adjacent over hypotenuse. Give yourself a mark. Tan is opposite over adjacent. For angle y, opposite over adjacent is 3/4. Now, because we're dealing with the same angle, then secant is the reciprocal of cos, so that's just a 5/4. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, so it's a 5/3. Cot is the reciprocal of tan, so it's a 4/3. Or you can do secant is a hypotenuse over adjacent for angle y, hypotenuse over adjacent, etc. If you have these right, give yourself a mark for each one. Now we have find the exact value as a fraction. The exact value means any roots, don't change them to a decimal. So we have two triangles that I got to memorize. I got a 30, 60, 90. Opposite 30 is a 1, opposite 60 is a root 3, opposite the hypotenuse is 2. And the 45 right triangle, 45, 45 is a 1, 1. And I do these when I'm doing trig to do ratios. Notice I could go n 2n in root 3. I could go n root 2, but I don't need the n's when I'm dealing with trig because the n's will cancel out because of numerator and denominator. So the cosecant of 30, cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. 30 hypotenuse is 2 over opposite, which is 1, so that's just 2. Give yourself a mark. Cot is adjacent over opposite in relation to 60. Adjacent is 1. Opposite is a root 3. And we have removed the radical from the bottom. So 1 times root 3 is root 3. And root 3 times root 3 is just 3. Root 9, which is 3. And you can't divide the root 3 into the 3 here because that's a root. Give yourself a mark. And the secant is hypotenuse. Notice how I have it in front of me, so I refer to it. Secant is hypotenuse over adjacent. 45, hypotenuse is the root 2. Adjacent, the two of them are the same, so don't make any difference. Look at root 2 over 1, which is just root 2. Give yourself a mark. Total up a page is out of 8. Hopefully everything is going okay and you understand what you're doing. Again, if you don't, go back and review. Very important to get the foundation for your trig. Number 9, find the exact value of each as a fraction simplified. Remember, we always simplify fractions. And the exact values, leave it as a root, just a reminder. You don't convert it to a decimal. If you do, you'll get it marked wrong. We have a triangle. That's triangle ABC. Angle C is a right angle. A and B go in these positions. You can put A here and B there. It makes no difference. And I have, again, Sakatoa. If you had it written on a one-page somewhere, you wouldn't have to keep writing this out. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cos is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tan is opposite over adjacent. And CSC, hypotenuse over opposite. SEC, secant, hypotenuse over adjacent. And cot is adjacent over opposite. Keep it always memorized. And after a while, you get used to it. You know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cos is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tan is opposite over adjacent. Then secant, cosecant are reciprocals. Just flip it around. Here we go. Secant of A. Secant is hypotenuse over adjacent. So in relation to angle A, hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle, and adjacent is the 4. We have to do the Pythagorean property. Again, we got a 5, 4, and what's the other side? If you got to memorize, it's a 3. Notice, check. 3 squared, 9. 4 squared, 16. 9 is 16, 25, square root 5. But if you haven't got it memorized yet, 5 is the hypotenuse. Now, let's pretend that you don't know it's a 3, but I know it's a 3. Put the 5 in, put the 4 in, and put an x in for the unknown. 25, 16, x squared. 25 minus 16 equals x squared. 9 equals x squared. Square root of 9 plus minus square root of x squared. X equals plus minus 3. And we can't put a negative, so 3 got to go there. Now we got to write out our statement. 18 cosecant A minus 16 cot squared B. Cot as a cot. So we have to work out the cosecant of A. Cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. In terms of A, hypotenuse is 5. Opposite is 3. Done. And notice this is cot of B, cot squared. So the square goes outside the bracket. And we do the cot of B. The cot is adjacent over opposite for angle B. Cot is adjacent 3 over opposite 4. Okay, that's done. Now, in PEMDAS, P-E-M-D-A-S, DAS, which we practiced before on order of operations in different units and order of operations in itself, is a video that videos you can work on. Very important. So we will do the exponent first. Notice the brackets are simplified. I'm going to do the exponent first, coming up next. So 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16. That's done. Now I'm going to do multiplication, division. Multiplication, no division. Multiply 3 into 6, 3 into 18 goes 6, that's a 30. 16's cancel, I got negative 9. And works out to be a 21. So I did the multiplications, got subtraction, I got a 21. And we have 7 marks, and the marks, so if you put that down right there, well, I gave you 1 mark for that. If you did the triangle correctly, and but the Pythagorean and all that, I gave you the triangle. If you did this, I gave you another mark right here. If you did the triangle, I gave you another mark. If you worked out these two here, there's a mark each. And if you worked out to this, you give a mark. And if you worked out this one, you give a mark. Hopefully that's 7 assigned, right? 7 marks. So if you end up with 21, just give yourself automatically 7. If you don't get 21, then see where you made a mistake and give your marks up to that point. B, let's find the exact value of this as a fraction. Now we have a root 6. First of all, let's let that stay there, and let's do the triangle. We have let's do the 30, 60, 90 triangle right here. Notice I have a 60, 45, and 30. So 30 and 60. Opposite 30 is 1. Opposite 60 is a root 3. Opposite the 90 is a 2. With a 45, 45 right triangle. 1, 1, root 2. Practiced it over the years. Kept it in my head. Never forgot it. Kept even today. Imagine. Even when I did it way back. Let's say 50-something years ago, when I was doing the math. This is what I learned. This is how I practice. So here we go. Now we do root 6 bracket. I have to do the inside of the bracket first. So again, we got Sakatoa, and we got a 60. We got cot. Cot is adjacent over opposite. Adjacent over opposite for 60. Adjacent over opposite, so it's 1 over root 3. Plus sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. For 45, opposite is 1 over root 2. And we got the cosecant of 30. Cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite for 30. Hypotenuse is a 2. And for 30-degree angle, opposite is a 1. So what we have now, we have to simplify. So 2 over 1 is just a 2. That's okay. Now I'm going to work out the square root. So 1 over root 3 times root 3 over root 3 gives me root 3 over 3. And 1 over root 2 times root 2 over root 2 gives me root 2 over 2. So I have them simplified. This is simplified. Now, you can't add these because they're not like terms. You can add the fractions and get a denominator of 6, but you can't add the root 3 into root 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply root 6 times root 3 over 3. That gives me the root of 18 over 3. Then I'm going to multiply root 6 by root 2. That gives me root 12 over 2. Remember, the 6 is over 1. So numerators, denominators. Numerators, root 12, denominators 2. And multiply this. I have a 2 root 3. Now, the root of 18 is the root of 9 times 2. So the root of 18 is 3 root 2 over 3. The root of 12 is 4 times 3. So that's a 2 root 3 over 2. So we cancel the 3's to get a root 2. We cancel the 2's to get a root 3. And we can add like terms. So we have root 2. There's no more there like it. So that's a 1 minus 2. So it's a negative 1 root 3. 1 is understood. And there's your final answer. As a fraction, you could put it over 1, but that's just as good. And we have 8 marks. If you did the triangles, you got a mark. If you did each of these correctly, you got a mark. There's 3 marks. There's 4 marks there. And if you simplified these correctly, right here, you got another mark. There's 5. If you work them out to this down right here, to root 18, if you multiply correctly, you got a mark. If you simplified each of them to here, you got a mark. And if you got the final answer, you got a mark. 8 in total. Add up your marks. And now, add up your total of your pages. Put your total over 41. Divide 41 into your numerator. Get a decimal. And move it 2 places to the right to get the percent. And hopefully your percent is a good percentage. Hopefully it's 100%. You know what you're doing. But if you don't, again, review. Learn the trig ratios. And notice Sakatoa. And just go back to remind you. You have to keep this in mind all the time. This is my way of getting it right all the time. Then you see it in front of you and you don't make a mistake. And the Pythagorean theorem, in a right triangle, got 2 sides, get the third one. Or you can memorize some of the trig ratios. That's good to work through. Anyway, that brings us to the end. And if you like my video, click on the like button, subscribe button, and notification bell. Visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. That's the content on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Thank you for viewing my video. Bye-bye.